All right, the Detroit Red Wings have some interesting roster decisions to make this coming season. So I'm going to read out some names for you, and let's go through what we think some lines could be. And I'm going to read these names in the cap-friendly order, so we're going to be looking in terms of salary and position. Dylan Larkin, Andrew Copp, Jacob Vrana, Tyler Bertuzzi, David Perron, Pius Suter, Oscar Sundqvist, Dominic Kubalik, Adam Ernie, Michael Rasmussen, Lucas Raymond, Giovanni Smith, Philip Zadina, who still is without a contract, Ben Sherratt, Philip Hronik, Oli Mata, Jordan Osterley, Moritz Seider, Gustav Lindstrom, Mark Pesic, Stephen Comfort, Jake Wallman, Simon Edvinson should be counted too, actually. Robbie Fabry on injured reserve, Ville Husso, Alex Nedeljkovic, and anyone else, like Jonathan Berggren, if you want to count. Oh, obviously Joe Veleno is in the mix, Elmer Soderblom, and then, you have the Chase Pearsons, the Cross Hanneses, the Taro Hiroses, what have you. So that is quite a bit of, I think, healthy competition for the Red Wings roster. So why don't we start with the forward lines? Brad, you first. Top 6. Where does it stack up for you?
Well, there's a few angles you can take on this one. Let's just stack the lines. First line is your best player. Second line is your next best players. Third line is your next best players. Or you can spread the talent out. I think the way the Red Wings are constructed now, they have the option to do both pretty comfortably. For sake of simplicity on this, I'll just go with I'm going to just stack my lines based on talent as best I can and just give those top 2 lines the most ice time. Either construction I would make of this roster, my first line is Larkin, Raymond, Bertuzzi.
You can't get away from that.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And even if you tried to fix it, I don't see a better option. That line just makes too much sense. It's your best center, your best left winger, and what's probably going to be your best right winger for a decade. Mm-hmm. Don't tinker with it. It works. And then on the second line, you didn't bring in Andrew Copp to be a depth player. Based on talent, he's definitely not going to be a depth player on this team, so he's your second line center. Same with David Perron. I think those 2 guys right now you can staple to the second line. I think the decisions as to who's going to slot across them will be a little more interesting, again, based on how you want to construct this roster. I put Jacob Vrana there. Why? Because he's the best option. And you can put a pure goal scorer like that with a player like Andrew Copp who can retrieve and distribute the puck very effectively. And you have, offsetting wingers who could shoot in Perron and Vrana and also have good ability to move the puck. That line has the recipe to be successful. Again, not one of the better second lines in the NHL, but good, possibly above average. What I would consider there is maybe throwing Kubalik on that left wing instead, or Zadina, freeing up Vrana to go play on the third line with Suter and whoever, again, Zadina or Kubalik or whoever, however you distribute that, to create a more dangerous third line. I don't think there's a bad option there, but I think based on talent, Vrana probably should be getting second line minutes. So that's how I would divvy it up.
I agree. Larkin, Raymond, Bertuzzi, you do that until it doesn't work. And there was very little indication last season outside of injury or just pure wear and tear that wasn't going to work, right?
Outside of the defense struggling to get them the puck at any point during the game.
Right. And I don't know what's going to happen. No one really knows what's going to happen yet with vaccine restrictions or anything or Bertuzzi's status. So I'm doing this under the assumption that he plays every game. That line sticks together. Maybe the trade happens, who knows? But for now, Larkin, Bertuzzi, Raymond, I am a full supporter of what Jeff Blashill did last season with Lucas Raymond, which was shelter him by give him the most offensive opportunity you can. So even when he's slowed down, it's not like he was a non-factor in the game. My second line, I understand what you're saying, Brad. I settle in on Vrana on that second line. I think probably
I settled in on.
No, I know, but you talk.
I'm gonna create a conflict by agreeing with you.
Agreeing with Brad just generally is kind of creates inner conflict.
That's right.
It's a gross feeling. I don't suggest you do it. No, but Copp obviously coming in as the second line center. That's not a surprise. Vrana and Perron on the wings. That makes the most sense. And I think Vrana is the first name to kind of move up if needed. You know, you have to hope as a Red Wings fan that Jacob Vrana has a full healthy season, because this is a guy who could flirt with 40 goals in the right situation, in my mind. We've yet to see it. He needs to play. You know, availability is the best and first and foremost trait that a player has to have to make it in the NHL. So he has to play, but by all rights, his output has been there the entire time he's been a Detroit Red Wing. It's just not been for very many games. Beyond that, Pius Suter, Dominic Kubalik, Filip Zadina. In theory, that line works, and that's probably what I'd go with, but I am concerned. I don't know what Zadina needs to succeed, and I'm concerned that line might not be enough. It depends on what version of Kubalik the Red Wings get, but, you know, what if Kubalik needs a little bit more talent to play with him? What if one of them needs to slot up on the second line and you, like you said, Brad, you move Vrana down, or you move Perron down, or whatever it might be.
We've seen the science of what happens when Zadina plays with another Czech.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm just saying that this can't fail.
We'll take Dominic Kubalik as Jacob Vrana 2.0.
1,000%. But having a shooter like Kubalik opposite Zadina, even though Kubalik won't distribute the puck to Zadina all that effectively, he presents another threat that the other team has to game plan on, which Zadina did not have a lot of last year when he was playing lower in the lineup, because, you know, despite all his struggles, when he was playing on the third line, teams knew he was the only real threat there. So it was super easy to key on him. And even then, he still got chances. Again, we've talked ad nauseum about, dude, if he just hit the net, and, you know, he's a good 200-foot player. Suter's a good 200-foot player. So you're not necessarily worried about that line getting caved defensively. I don't think they're particularly strong defensively as a line.
They're not going to be the hardest line in hockey to play.
But you're a third line. You can shelter a third line like that. So if you have two legitimate scoring threats and a decent Swiss Army knife in between them,
was that intentional?
It wasn't, and I'm mad it wasn't.
I thought it was for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't, and I'm actually like upset.
That is the most perfect.
Yeah,
that would have been amazing. You should have just owned it.
I should have. I'm too honest. That was bad. But the formula to have an effective third line is there. It's just a matter of Suter tightening up some of his deficiencies that he showed defensively last year, which you can find on a couple Austin Matthews goals. And it comes down to Zadina being able to, you know, hit the goddamn net. And we know what we're going to get out of Kubalik. We're going to get 15 to 25 goals, basically no help.
Amazing.
Yeah. But basically no help defensively and very little playmaking. But that's fine. If you're getting a 15 to 25 goal scorer on your third line, you don't give a what the hell else you could do. We were all happy with Michael Rasmussen's progression last year as a third line winger, and he capped at 15 goals. So, you know, if you can get an extra 10 goals out of the guy who's essentially, quote unquote, taking his spot, beautiful.
Also an outside shot in case of injury or a player not working out, or we don't know what Zadina's contract situation is, etc. Michael Rasmussen on the wing. Not a center Michael Rasmussen on the wing, on the same trajectory as he had in the last third of last season.
And the one thing that I think is also very relevant about this third line, not about them playing together, is all three of them have the capability of playing higher in the lineup in case of emergency, in case of injury. You know, if the second line's running hot and Bertuzzi gets hurt and they don't want to break up that second line, you can plug Zadina or Kubalik in there and they won't drag that line down.
I will say my fourth line, and this might be a tall ask based on the competition, but I have Joe Veleno at center, Michael Rasmussen on wing, probably Oscar Sundqvist on the other wing with Adam Ernie as a scratch.
I actually really like that line.
That's a great fourth line.
There's some honey badger mentality there.
Yeah, the Red Wings' first line based on our construction can probably be considered above league average, and their fourth line can be considered above league average. It's the in-between that they got to get, you know.
It's a big whale C.
Yeah.
Did you say whale C or
whale C? It's
whale
just
C.
late.
Oh, I said whale.
Yeah. It's a big whale C.
Monkeys didn't catch up to that one fast enough.
Did I not enunciate? Probably, but
it's like, is there a pun there that I don't understand?
No.
Yes, there could be.
Maybe we missed it like Brad missed a Swiss Army knife. Folks, it's the middle of the off season, huh?
Yeah.
It feels like it with this heat wave. Any part of that forward conversation, Evan, that strikes you as different or controversial?
No, not particularly. The only real question I have is, well, what the hell do you do when Robbie Fabry comes back?
You have to imagine
fantastic problem.
There will be another injury by then, right? Like,
Oh, if I know the Red Wings, yes.
yeah,
They'll be calling someone up while he's coming off IR.
Yeah.
almost definitely. And if not, a trade. Like,
Yeah.
he's going to be out for quite some time, so it's not, obviously it's not a good thing. You just paid him a good amount of money to play for the Red Wings for an extended period of time, but they have time before he comes back. So.
And when he comes back, they can ease him in. Maybe he takes Sundqvist or Rasmussen's spot on the fourth line and just be like, let's just give you 8 minutes a night till your knee starts to feel like fully back up to game speed, whatever. Again, we've said this like to the point where everybody's probably sick of hearing it this off season, but man, flexibility is so critical, not only in getting a good team, but allowing players to succeed.
Yeah.
Whether that's in their role or in Fabry's case, rehab.
Yeah. For the third time for the same injury. God, that's scary.
Different knee this time.
So it's 2 on one knee, 1 on the other.
Correct.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.